something good today.
Hey y'all, welcome to Dad Does Dinner. Tonight we're going to do some super simple roasted tomato sauce. I'm cooking out of my garden tonight. I've started here with 5 pounds of San Marzano tomatoes. Had a really good crop of San Marzanos this year. And San Marzano, it's a type of plum tomato named for the region in Italy from which they originated. And they are a firm tomato, and they're a little bit on the sweet side. Really good. You see them mostly in the stores in the can. You can buy canned San Marzano tomatoes and make sauce out of that. But these are from my garden. Now, if you didn't happen to have a bumper crop of San Marzano tomatoes this year, you can do the same thing with Roma tomatoes, or you can even do these with cherry tomatoes. Now, I know you've heard me talk about store-bought tomatoes before, and especially the larger varieties, that's how when they get to the store, they just don't have as much flavor as we'd like them to have because they were picked early in their maturity stage and didn't have time to fully develop all those flavors. Well, by roasting the tomatoes, you are really intensifying the flavors that they do have. And I've done this before with Roma tomatoes bought from the store and with cherry tomatoes, and the sauce comes out great. So what I'm doing first is I'm slicing my tomatoes in half, and then I'm just coring them out, just pulling these seeds out, easily done with a teaspoon. Slide that teaspoon in, and then just slide down, and those seeds come right out. If you have a grapefruit spoon, this would be a great application for that. I would recommend anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds of tomatoes to get a decent amount of sauce. These tomatoes are going to cook down a whole lot, and you're going to get a lot less sauce than what you expect. So while 5 pounds of tomatoes sounds like a lot, it's going to be just enough sauce for what we're making tonight. So I'm going to do, and so what we're doing is we're just doing a pretty traditional marinara sauce that we're going to make with our roasted tomatoes. And I'm going to put that over some pasta. I'm also going to serve that alongside some mild and hot Italian sausage and peppers. The ingredients in our sauce, pretty simple. We're going with tomatoes, onions, garlic, and some herbs. In this case, I'm using basil, parsley, and oregano. Those are also fresh from my garden. I know at the grocery store, the fresh herbs are a little pricey to buy. Dried herbs work just fine. So I'm gonna keep working on these tomatoes. I'm probably gonna end up needing a couple of pans worth. I hope you enjoyed last weekend's episode when we did the hot dogs with the Q brothers. That was a lot of fun. If you missed it, it's over there on YouTube or on my Facebook or Instagram page. Those guys are a lot of fun to hang out with. And man, those Sonora dogs were just amazing. So while the calendar doesn't show that it's summer yet, we are in full summer here in the Houston area in Montgomery, Texas. And for me, that means a lot of time out by the pool. I try to get out there for about an hour a day. I'm real fortunate to live in a neighborhood that has a pool. And my buddy Michael, he joined a boat club, so I've also enjoyed the fruits of his labor. We've gone out fishing a couple of times, haven't caught anything yet, but you know, it's really nice to get out on the lake. Just kind of get away. Just let it be quiet for a little bit. A lot of craziness going on in the world today. I know you're feeling it like I am. So it's real important to do things for other people and do things that make you feel good and keep your mind right. Of course, the coronavirus is still going on. Let's not forget about that. Although I keep seeing article after article, has America forgotten about the coronavirus? Still out there doing us damage. Do what you need to do to stay safe. Especially wash those hands. I always got to give a shout out to my buddy Mike in San Angelo and his crew at One Arm Brewing and Barbecue. They are the mini micro brewery, and they're known for their all-you-can-eat endless sausage platter. Mike does a lot of good for other people there in San Angelo. Keep up the good work, Mike. It's always good to see pictures of what you're doing and how you're helping other people out. I really like that a lot. And of course, my super fans, Emmy and Super Nate. Super Nate, I know you really like the Q Brothers footwear that they had on with their flip-flopping style. They're always asking me, why do you always wear shoes? Well, I always wear Crocs. I guess those qualify as shoes. But I like them because they're comfortable. And I can't stand that little flip-flop thing going between my toes. Emmy, I miss shouting at you every day across the hallway. Gosh, it's been what, 3 months since we've seen each other? Emmy and I are really good friends, really good colleagues. And we approach things a little bit differently, but gosh, we just complement each other so well. And we're really building something good there at Lone Star College Montgomery Theater. The other day we had an online Zoom meeting with a few students. Gosh, it was good to see our students. I'm a theater professor. I like to be in front of people. I like to work with my students. And we work pretty intensely together, and to not have done that since the beginning of March, man, I am just hungry to get in front of some students and start working again. So now y'all have to suffer through all these episodes of Dad Does Dinner. All right, I'm not gonna go too far down this rabbit hole, but I wanna talk just a little bit about what's going on in the world today. You know, it troubles me, it saddens me to see the things that I'm seeing put out by our media and spread around on social media. And I just gotta say this, you know, do not vilify an entire group of people for the actions of a very, very small few. It's not fair, it's not right, and it's not true. So don't get caught up in, what we see on the news. I usually watch our local news mainly for the weather, and yeah, I guess I'm an old guy. I like to watch my weather on TV. And sometimes after that, I watch the national news. Well, it takes them 2 to 3 minutes to run through the national news headlines to tell you what they're going to tell you. And just watching those 3 minutes, I got so angry because of the sensationalism that's going on, not news reporting, but sensationalizing and opinion giving, that literally in those 3 minutes, I had to change the channel. Of course, I went over to the Food Network and saw some of my TV co-stars over there. But gosh, if you get your news from one source, from one channel, in this day and age, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not getting the whole story. In a lot of cases, you're not even getting fact. You're just getting opinions of skewed facts. And I try never to base and form my own opinions just from what I saw from one source. And I really do my best not to post sensationalism in my own social media page. I find that that's divisive, and it does nothing to forward the argument. If you like to post opinion articles that call themselves news articles, I urge you to ask yourself these questions. Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said right now? And does this need to be said by me? If you answer no to any of those questions, then you know what? Don't forward that. Don't post it. You might also want to ask yourself, what good is this doing? Is this really going to change anybody's mind? Or does this just make me feel like I'm smart and I'm an expert and it makes me look good and be right? Folks, there is so much hate in the world right now. Do your part not to spread it. And I always tell you, do something good for somebody else. I'm blessed to be part of a service organization that I spend several hours a week. We do a lot of outreach to people who need to hear the message that we're spreading. And it's awesome because we get to see, the results of what we do, on a week in and week out basis. And you know what? That's how I fill my heart, and that's how I keep my mind right, and that's how I don't go down these rabbit holes that all the news sources want you to go down. So I guess that's enough of my soapbox. My wife calls these my fireside chats. She even professed to liking my fireside chats. Just about done. Oh, I'm almost gonna be able to get 5 pounds of tomatoes on 2 trays. This is a whole head of garlic that I've peeled and now I'm chopping up. Doesn't have to be real fine. Something past rough and before fine. Whenever I go to cook a recipe, I know in my head basically what I want to do, but I always look up some other recipes just to get other thoughts and ideas, different perspectives and things like that. And I kept running across different recipes that say, use 1 clove of garlic, use 3 cloves of garlic. And I'm thinking, what the hell good is 1 to 3 cloves of garlic gonna do? I want to taste the garlic. I like garlic. So I said, no, we're going to use a whole head in this one. Don't be afraid that it's going to be overpowering either, because we're going to roast this garlic with the tomatoes, so it's really going to sweeten up. Roasted garlic has that sweet, almost, kind of a buttery flavor, the garlicky flavor. So this isn't like we're just throwing a bunch of raw garlic on it at the end. All right. So, like I said, kind of a, maybe a medium fine, medium rough, whatever you want to call that. You don't have to get too crazy with it. All right. And so now I'm going to take half. I'm going to divide this in half, because if I don't, I'll end up putting it all on one pan and not on the other. But I just want to take my garlic and just start sprinkling it into my tomatoes. And this way, as the tomatoes roast, 1, they'll get infused with the garlic flavor, and 2, I won't have to worry about this garlic burning. So try not to get too much garlic on the pan itself. Try to stick with it being in these tomatoes, okay? So we put this in. Now, if you've decided to do this with cherry tomatoes, and you may remember from my I think it was my burger episode when I talked about tomatoes, and I talked about cherry tomatoes especially. Cherry tomatoes usually at the store-bought ones, they do have more flavor than the larger variety of tomatoes, because cherry tomatoes are picked later in their maturity process, thus they got a better chance of ripening to full flavor on their way to and in the store. So if you're using cherry tomatoes for this recipe, leave your garlic cloves whole, because they are going to be on the pan. You can't really put your little pieces of garlic inside of a small cherry tomato. So leave the garlic cloves whole, and that way you won't have to worry about them burning. Okay. Also with the cherry tomatoes, you don't seed those, because once again you'd be losing too much of the tomato. Okay. I'm going to drizzle this with my extra virgin olive oil, and so how much, if you're one of those, well, how much exactly do I use? Probably a tablespoon here over the whole thing. You just want a light drizzle, just a hit. And once again, adds a little richness, adds a little flavor. Okay. So my father-in-law gave me this kind of this drizzle top for olive oil, so it drizzles out. Okay. So for your herbs, really do your herbs to taste. So here I've got about 8 basil leaves, and then I've probably got a tablespoon and a half of oregano, and then probably half a tablespoon of Italian parsley. If you're going to use dried herbs for this, I'd say just use a tablespoon of dry basil, a tablespoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of parsley, and that's for 5 pounds of tomatoes. And of course, adjust accordingly. If you like other kind of herbs, rosemary, marjoram, all of that would go well with this. Okay, use those. You know, as I always tell you, cook with flavors you like. All right, so I've got an abundance of basil out there, lots of oregano, and a good bit of Italian parsley left. I like all those flavors, so that's what I'm going to use. So once again, I'm going to take about half of these herbs. And these, you know, and I chopped this, once again, kind of a rough chop on it. It wasn't very finely chopped. You know, the herbs, as they cook, you know, they're certainly going to draw up and in. So even if they're very roughly chopped, you're going to be okay with these. And then, of course, in the end, all of these flavors are going to get pureed together with the immersion blender. And don't let that scare you. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can use a regular blender or a food processor as well. So you can get a good look at this. I'll try to do this without, there we go. So that's what this looks like. Last thing I'm gonna do with these is I'm gonna hit them. I'm gonna use sea salt. Hit them with a little bit of sea salt or kosher salt, either one will work. The sea salt's just a little bit stronger, a little bit saltier than the kosher salt. And I just want to do a light sprinkle over all of that. Now I'm going to hit them all with a little bit of pepper too. Just a little salt, a little pepper. And we'll put both pans in a 400-degree oven. This could take anywhere between 40 minutes and an hour. You just got to check them and make sure that everything's looking good. What we're wanting to see out of this is our tomatoes to shrivel up and just start to get a little bit of color. So 40 minutes to an hour, either right before they start to turn brown or right when they start to turn brown, and these are gonna be done. So we're about 25 minutes into the cooking process. Here's what you're looking at. You know, sometimes I get to talking and I just lose my head of what I'm supposed to be doing, and I forgot to add the sliced onion. So on each pan I added a thinly sliced half an onion, so a whole onion all together. And then as I was slicing it, I thought I was talking to you and the camera wasn't on, so you missed all that good stuff too. And since we're halfway through the cooking process, I'm switching the pans, the high one going in the low spot and the low one going in the high spot. The way they're looking, I think we got about 20 more minutes on those. All right, after about 50 minutes, our tomatoes, you can see, have cooked way down. The onions are starting to get some color, same with the garlic, so I pulled them out. So here you have a couple of options, okay? Sometimes when those cook, they kind of shrivel enough and you can just pull those skins right off. This didn't happen in this case, and if you're doing cherry tomatoes, then you don't worry about the skins at all. Now, what I could do is put everything into the pot as is and hit them with the immersion blender, and that would taste fine. Sometimes that skin, though, it gives it a little bit of I don't know, too much of a texture, an odd texture, that if you're using the Romas or the San Marzano tomatoes, you may not want the skin in there. With the cherry tomatoes, that's a really thin skin, and it works just fine. What I have here is a food mill, okay? And so I'm gonna run the tomatoes through the food mill, and what that'll do, it'll just let all the juice and the flesh of the tomato get through it, and it'll leave the skins in here. If you don't have a food mill, you can use a regular mesh strainer and just hit it with the back of a fork. It's a little tedious, but it's not very difficult to do. So get the right size pot. This will fit right on it, and then you put all your tomatoes in, a few at a time. You get to all of them, and then you just simply fold and crank. And it runs them right through it. You see also on the stove, I got some pasta going. We're going to use spaghetti for this. And also I just threw some sausages on the grill. and sauteed some onions and pepper, and so these are going to go with them too. So it took me about 10 minutes, and this is what I'm left with. So let's give it a taste. As you can see, it's fairly thick. Wow. That has such a rich and intense tomato flavor. And all we have is a little bit of salt and pepper, onions, garlic, and some herbs for some seasoning. And that is just full of flavor. Like I said before, it's got a little bit of a richness to it, and it's also got a good freshness to it. Now, you can see that didn't make a ton of sauce. Now, this is for really serving pasta the traditional Italian way, which is pasta tossed in a little bit of sauce. Now, I am going to thin this out just a little bit with, I'm going to start probably about a half cup of pasta water. Give it a stir. Now, that pasta water, it's got the starches from the pasta in it and a little bit of salt. Remember, when cooking your pasta, always make your water taste like the sea. Okay, and that's just a little, maybe a little bit more. We'll give it one more taste. That is so good. All right, it's ready to be tossed with the pasta and served for dinner. All right, so we tossed the pasta in the sauce, added my sausage and pepper. Now I'm just going to hit it with some fresh grated Parmigiano Reggiano. Now we'll give it a little taste. You know, when I went to Italy, I spent a 3-week tour of Italy. I was a chaperone for a group of high school students. And almost every meal we were served pasta just like this as our appetizer. So I was in heaven because I love pasta and marinara. Wow. That has so much flavor. You know, we're used to having a whole lot of sauce on our pasta. This is so packed with flavor, you don't need a bunch. And you just lightly toss a couple tablespoons of sauce in with that pasta. Oh my gosh, outstanding. So, try it yourself. Make your own roasted tomato sauce, cherry tomatoes, Roma tomatoes. Either one will work and work well. Just remember to cook with flavors you like, and you'll enjoy what you eat. Gotta send out an apology to Mama Q. I know my kitchen's a wreck, and I know you're not happy with that. Remember, do something good. I'll see y'all next time. What do you think, Pete?
It's awful. No, I'm kidding. It's good. I like it.
Hey y'all, I've been thinking a lot about the sauce that we made last night. I was a little surprised when I opened the oven and the tomato flesh hadn't quite pulled away from the skin. It didn't look like that it was going to, and there was very little juice in the pan. This is my first time doing this sauce with homegrown San Marzano tomatoes. Usually I have used Roma tomatoes from the grocery store. And after thinking about this, I'm thinking there must be a difference in the way that the tomatoes are produced from a small batch organic garden that I have versus a large batch commercial garden. So I'm thinking that has something to do with this. I didn't intend on using the food mill at the end. I've used my food mill for sauces before, but what I totally expected was lots of juice in the pan, flesh to have pulled away from the skin of the tomato, and I could just pull the skin off and pour everything into the pot and then hit it with my immersion blender. So here are some thoughts about that. Okay, so using the food mill, it is laborious. I don't mind doing it. It did take 10 extra minutes that I wasn't counting on. And you may not have a food mill, or you may not feel like pushing those tomatoes through a wire strainer with the back of a spoon. I think if you have a good blender, say like a Ninja or a Vitamix, that if you put all of that in the blender, put that on high, the texture of it will come out okay. A lot of times when you do a cooked tomato skin, that skin wants to roll up a little bit, and so you end up with a bunch of little tomato skin kind of rolls in your sauce. It's not bad, it's just kind of an odd texture, and that's the texture I was talking about when I mentioned that last night. So just wanted to clean that up a little bit. Surprises happen when we cook. Even for a TV food star like me who's done lots of dishes and with lots of experience, every now and then I do get a surprise and I have to adjust. I was expecting about 5 cups of sauce, about a cup per pound, and we ended up with about 3 cups of sauce. But the sauce, it was dynamite, really intense flavor, and even Peyton liked it. And if you're wondering about that spot on my forehead, that came from a gardening accident. We'll see y'all next time.
Let's all do something good today.